let's move to our last presentation of the forum, and then give an opportunity for a couple questions, comments, and then concluding remarks. So our last presentation of the night meaning in Minnesota, is unlocking neurodiversity. And if the presenters please can introduce yourselves, and then you can go ahead.
Okay, a very good morning from our side of the world. Firstly, it's such an honor for us to be here, and we highly appreciate the invitation from Dr. Hasrul and the acceptance from the organizer. Dignity of work carries such a profound meaning. They remind us that work is more than just a paycheck. It's about purpose, contribution, and sense of belonging that comes from being part of something bigger than ourselves. But we know for many neurodivergent individuals, this dignity can be out of reach, not because of the lack of talent, but because workplaces won't build with them in mind. So at Petronas, as the national oil and gas company for Malaysia, we ask ourselves, what if we change that? What if we build an ecosystem where neurodivergent individuals are not just accommodated, but empowered to thrive? And that's where Neurodiverse Center of Excellence comes into play. And as a disclaimer, we are still new in our journey, and we are starting with providing high value jobs for neurodivergent individuals with low support. And there is so much more that we're still learning, and we hope to learn from other organizations and experts that have paved the way before us. My name is Intan Naharia, and together with me, I have my teammate, my passionate, superb NCOE manager, Mat Shah, and together we'll be taking through our presentation in terms of how we've done, how we've fared, taking some of the recommendation that Dr. Wan have shared earlier and putting it in implementation. And as with any of recommendations and theory, it's when the rubber hits the road is the one that we're learning how to adjust and be agile and innovate to get to the result that we want. Let's start with the first slide, Shah. Okay, so there's two objectives of our presentation. We will share Petronas' journey, the progress that we've made, the challenges we face, and the aspiration that continue to push us forward. So the first one is to showcase our journey. So I'll take you through how we've been building an inclusive workplace where neurodivergent talents aren't just hired but supported. And this will include the lessons learned from our 2 years implementation journey of cohort 1 and cohort 2. And number 2, being here, what we hope to also have is to gather some insights because it's not just about what we've done. We know there's still much more to learn. And that's why we're here to exchange ideas, gain fresh perspective, and to ensure our strategy is not just impactful, but sustainable. Right, so the content overview, I'll just go quickly. It looks a lot, but we'll go through this very fast. A little bit about Petronas, why we're doing this, a little bit of our understanding on neurodivergent spiky profile that really help us curate our program onwards, how we've been innovating, and then I'll pass this over to the success story and the lessons learned, which is actually the key of our presentation, to Shah, and then a bit of our nation building agenda, and I'll conclude the session as well. But I'll pass to Dr. Hasrul to conclude the session. All right, Shah, next. A little bit about Petronas. Petronas, we are Malaysia's national oil and gas company, and our main role is to safeguard and manage the nation's hydrocarbon resources. So our aim is, how do we add value to every single molecule through our integrated business model. So we're from upstream all the way down to downstream petroleum products, and also our cleaner energy solution. So our statement of purpose, this replaced our vision and mission, is to be a progressive energy and solution partners, enriching life for a sustainable future. And next slide, Shah. So the reason on why we are doing this, we view neurodiversity as a long-term investment. It's an investment opportunity for Petronas to address business need, to enrich life, and contribute to nation building. So we always have to say we need to have a clear narrative, the why of we doing this. There's a rationale of why we're doing what we're doing, right? So if some of you don't know, Petronas is only 50 years old. So we celebrated our 50th anniversary last year. So it was an amazing accomplishment. But given the evolving landscape of geopolitical, macroeconomic perspective, the challenges that comes with accelerated pace towards energy transition, our management always reminds us that what got us here may not get us there, that next 50 years. So that's how we have to think about how we continue to grow in the next decade or so. We have a clear purpose in mind and we've laid out the strategy. So the who to deliver this in the next 50 years is Petronas' most valuable asset, its people, right? So the talent, our workforce. So this is why when we wanted to explore more on this, the first reason that we're doing this is really we wanted to also explore where are the untapped talent pool for Petronas to continue, being attractive to the many talents out there. How can we also differentiate ourselves, right? So when we wanted to grow, I think post-COVID, it really accelerated a lot of companies' digital and technology program. So when we wanted to basically upgrade our digital arm, there wasn't enough talent in the market. So, and then we were looking at, Petronas one good talent, whether they're neurodivergent, the PWD, or the new normal talent. We want good talent in our organization. So we realized that there's an untapped talent pool from the neurodivergent community, especially from the digital talent. And when Petronas do this, we're very clear that this is not part of our CSR, our corporate social responsibility. And there's nothing wrong with companies who does it as such. But for Petronas, this is really a business-driven initiative. There's a business need that we're trying to meet, and we're doing this so that we can, make it more sustainable. And what we're discovering as well as we're doing this is also our way of creating and nudging our leaders to go through a transformation for them to become inclusive leaders, right? And all these things is also part of our commitment to strengthen our sustainability journey. So the four main whys is basically our business reason and why we are doing what we're doing with regards to neurodiversity hiring. And the last one, in addition, is actually we actually signed a memorandum of understanding, an MOU with EY. Why EY? Because they've been recognized by the World Economic Forum as the lighthouse for a framework of neurodiversity hiring. So we partner with them. We signed an MOU in terms of how can we build a neurodiversity movement across Malaysia as well. So as we're doing this for ourselves internally, how can we also then inspire many more companies in Malaysia to also be with us in driving this movement for the nation. Next slide, Shah. So a little bit on how we've understand Spiky Profile and how then this helped us really unlock that conversation within our organization. So we know a neurodivergent individual, they possesses certain strength. We also know that, despite of that, there is still a persistent stigma and there's still a lack of understanding. And these have all created that barriers to employment that we've been hearing about all day. So our understanding of Spiky Profile, two sources that we're quoting here. Number one is from Genius Within, Dr. Nancy Doyle, Dutch giant in the industry, and as well as Gartner Research from the HR side. So our understanding of Spiky Profile is understanding that all neurodivergent individuals, they have strength and where they really excel with, and they also have ideas where we can identify where they struggle with. So how can the job matching then really fit into the strength of all these neurodivergent individuals, and understanding, where they're very good at and where they have challenges is where then we can discuss more in terms of the accommodation. And we also know neurodivergent has common strength. For example, we know dyslexic thinking has been recognized by LinkedIn as one of the skills for the future. And this is also, in line with what has been identified from World Economic Forum. We know those individuals with ADHD, yes, maybe in terms of expecting them to perform in a consistent and linear fashion might be a challenge. There will be spikes, there will be rest, and there will be spikes. So, but we also know these are also individuals who are creative. They can hyper focus and they have so much energy and passion. So these are example of, how understanding Spiky Profile has helped us, in the beginning of our journey and how we continue to move forward in this journey. Next slide, Shah. So this is basically the journey that we've taken so far in the last 2 years. So we started back with a pilot program in 2023, hiring into high value jobs. And as we continue to progress in 2025, currently we're focusing more on supporting the existing neurodivergent talent already in our workforce. So we started by hiring in, I think, May 2023. So we received about 73 CVs from our external partners, and about, as they go through the stages of interview, not through our normal hiring process, not through interviews. It's a different kind of assessment that we've created. So about 13 candidates then made it to what we call the final stage of what we call Petronas Super Week. And from there, about 8 applicants were successfully onboarded. But however, from the 8, 1 was actually non-confirmation. So the 7 then were onboarded into our cybersecurity department, 2 into software engineering, 2 in test center, and 2 in data platform services. And last year, in August, we hired another 4 neurodivergent talent, 2 into data science and 2 in end user design. And as the program progresses in the organization, we have basically adopted or start supporting existing talent in the organization. So it's no longer about hiring talent. Actually, we realized that within Petronas, there are already existingly neurodivergent talent. So how can we focus also on these talents to also help them grow? So that's why in 2025, the focus is the existing neurodivergent workforce in the talent, and we are also onboarding GIS. GIS is basically like an internship program for a year. It's a government program. So how can we continue to explore in terms of the hiring from a GIS perspective, and as well as interns? All right. Next slide, Shah. So how our unit has been innovating. This is what we call the talent model that we've continued to basically still explore and improve. So the lens of 3S, which is sourcing, skilling, and supporting. So from the sourcing, from the upstream, how can we look at our job description and how do we make them more neuro-affirming? What can we tweak in terms of the position description, in terms of what is expected? And we've learned in terms of sourcing for talent, how can we collaborate with partners from the ecosystem to identify where are these talent supplies? So hence a collaboration with academias, the collaboration with social enterprises that does upskilling for neurodivergent talents, those that also prepare a transition program. And then how can we then innovate our recruitment process? So we have this process that we say 4-step candidate assessment approach. How do we make it neuro-inclusive so that, you know, the talent, as they go through the interview process, or they go through the hiring process, they feel safe. So we have talent who said, you know, for the first time, during the video interview, they're saying like, you know, I'm ADHD inattentive, and this is the first time actually saying like I am ADHD in an interview process, and they feel like, you know, thank you to Petronas for making me feel like I can just be myself in this interview process. So we also feel like, you know, that's such an honor for us to be that safe space for those neurodivergent individual looking for employment. The second S is really skilling, because the talent that we bring in, their background might not be from IT. They are hired into IT position. The assessment that we've done is to see whether they have the passion and they have the interest. But once they come in, we need to ensure that there's a skill development program in place to ensure that we can close the gap in terms of the skill that's required for them to deliver their job. And then, of course, the continuous upskilling that we need to do from the lens of the organization. So what can we do to raise awareness and understanding across the organization? And this work doesn't end. And then, you know, upskilling in terms of the talent management, and continue to look at our our practices to make them neuro-inclusive. And then, of course, an important lever is leadership readiness towards inclusive leaders. And the last one that we continue to innovate is, you know, once we've already hired, when we've already skilled them, how do we continue to support them? So ensuring that there's a support network within the organization, and we also work with external job coaches to support our talent. So we have a triage of support model that we put for our neurodivergent talent. We have the line manager, which is responsible for the day-to-day. We have the NCOE manager with the NCOE team that looks at the integration of the talent into the organization culture overall. And then we assign a buddy to this neurodivergent talent to ensure that the socialization is done. And then we look at the workplace accommodation in terms of what are the other ongoing things that we can do to be supportive and create a win-win environment, so that the talent benefit and the organization, we have staff that is more productive. So for the next slide, I think I'll pass to my colleague, Shah.
Okay, thank you, Intan. I'm Shah from NCOE. I'll be presenting some of the outcomes, the early success story and some of the feedback from our neurodivergents as they go through the journey. So the left-hand side, I just giving some example of some of their contributions, but I believe it's not only them, but it's also a great collaboration between the neurodivergent and also the line manager in creating the safe space for them to post their ideas. Okay, just giving example, one of our neurodivergent, he has autistic and has high in terms of pattern recognition, one of his strengths. So he managed to identify the cyber threats, which previously was managed manually. So when he sees this is something that is kind of a certain pattern, then he managed to highlight this to his manager, and he proposed, what if we can, based on this pattern, can we automate this process instead? So then based on that proposal, so then the automation has actually increased the efficiency, which free up around 722 hours. Okay, but the second one is about the challenging the status quo and also speak up. So I think this talent is in the test center in the digital field, but his background is in legal. So when he reviewed, every newcomers will be required to complete a certain module. But when he looked at the module, he sees this is something outdated. We have something better. So then he proposed to his manager, and this has created a faster learning to competency, which can save up to 1 month save. So these are some of the sound bites from the line manager. And we also see from the angle of how the teams and leaders have changed as they have the neurodivergent within their team. I think the first is about the changing of perspective from the lens of judgment into empathy and curiosity, especially when dealing with a kind of peculiar behavior. So example, previously, and this behavior, interestingly, is not just only being implemented at neurodivergent, but it impacted the whole team. So this has helped the leaders to be more inclusive. It's not to the whole team, and it benefits the whole team. Example, let's say, we do note that some might be missing some deadlines. Okay, so the lens of judgment sees that this is a lazy and this is hopeless stuff. But with ND comes into picture, we are not saying that we tolerate the missed deadline, but how best we can see from the lens of curiosity and empathy. Is there anything that makes you miss your deadline? How can we co-create and support and to create better kind of meeting the deadline in the future? Okay, second is about internalized inclusion and challenge, own preconceived notions about ND. I think as during this kind of transformation, especially for the line manager as well, I think personally for myself as well, when I first listened about autistic, what comes into my mind 2 years or 3 years back was on the angle of deficit. But as they started to interact with our talent, they see the unique way of thinking, the strength that they bring to the team that has changed their notions and preconceived ideas about neurodivergent. Third is about how they have improved their communications, and they assume that all this while their communication was so clear. But with the ND part of the team, so then it has, there was some experience where the line manager assumed that everyone is understood what he mentioned. But unfortunately, I can say that there might be some people misinterpret his communication. So by having ND in the team, so it makes all the team members, the leaders, the team members more mindful and more deliberate and be clear on their communication within their team. So the right-hand side is about the ND's feedback. So how they feel proud that I'm contributing to the acceptance, normalization, integration of neurodivergent talents into the workforce. As mentioned by Intan, we started with 11. we externally hire, and now we have, based on the awareness that we have, based on the 11 that we also bring them as part of a change agent to share their personal journey, which has opened more communities or existing staff to start to disclose themselves. So they feel proud that it's not just about their giving value to the in terms of their business deliverables, but they also helping their communities. Second, I learned that no matter how small, my contribution has helped my team to effectively tech incident job. These are one of our talents. So maybe he entered with kind of self-esteem issues because he's not having any college degrees, but his line manager is able to kind of looking at his strength and really give him the perspective on what he is doing is something that really meaningful from the angle of cybersecurity. It's worth it to trust to others again. Kindness is more common than I thought. Proud to be part of community that forces knowledge exchange on neurodiversity. These are some of the sound bites from our talents based on conversations and feedback session as well. Okay. Okay, next is about for the past 2 years, it's not something it's all rosy, but there's also a lot of lessons learned for us to learn and perhaps to share today. I think one of it is about the early involvement from the hiring, from the angle talent management, how best we can start early our hiring managers. I think what makes a bit different from cohort 1 and cohort 2, for the cohort 2, what we have learned, the importance of having the hiring managers early in the recruitment stage. In the cohort number 2, initially there was some hiring managers, we still with stigma, and ask us about it. What if I don't want to take any of the neurodivergent candidates? Can I? Can? But fortunately, after they've seen the strength during the super week, they've seen the capability and their strengths, he was the one who's actually, I want to choose her, I want to choose the candidate. Okay, so the importance of having them early, that is not just about having them to craft the type of assessment, but also help them to also change their perspective about neurodivergent. Second, there was a closer collaboration between NCOE, our department, and also the talents and core ecosystem. It's not just about the hiring, but how best we can also curate the neuro inclusion in every aspect of their talent experience. So for example, in their learning development, onboarding, how best we can also collaborate with training provider for them to also provide a neuro-inclusive and also acknowledge the different way of processing information. Agility in managing intervention, matching strength to job. This is something that we also need to be quick because despite that during the assessment, they have demonstrated certain strength, but as they go through the actual job, they might be facing some challenges in matching their strength to the job roles. So some examples, one of our ND, he has a very high passionate about research, but initially he was stationed at test center, which is quite rigid kind of work. So that might not be the best position for him, but how best we can make it fast to intervene so that we can place him at the right position so that he can also contribute and organization can also receive the value from his expertise. And the importance of lived experience and productive career, I think as mentioned by Dr. Wan previously, and also the importance for us to really engage and not make any assumption on about their career progressions. Okay, on the change management is going to be continuously something that we are still strive for it because we have around 50,000 staff. How best we can upskill and make this normalize and reduce all the stigma. And it's not just about the within the internal team, but how best we can also upskill and make it aware, because this particular neurodivergent, they will be interacting to our partners and vendors from external organization as well. And more advocacy for neuro-inclusive lab into our processes and engagement, as well as we also need to balance which are the levers for us to really accelerate the change. Instead of just making a mass awareness, how best we can also tap on certain leaders for them to be the advocate for this change management in neurodiversity awareness in our organizations. Okay, next, just a snapshot what we had done so far in also collaborating with academia, service provider, also corporates and government agencies for us to really advocate and open that for all other corporates to also have opening doors and opportunity for our neurodivergence. So as the corporates are starting opening up the doors, so that's also create the ripple effect to the academia for them to really support and accept more neurodivergent students within their enrollment. Okay, so this is just a snapshot. How best we can also continuously and make this as part of the nation building agenda. Okay, I think that's coming out from me. If Intan wanted to add. I think we come into our conclusion or our last slides.
Yeah, thanks, Shah. So as I conclude our presentation today, firstly is neurodiversity at work has really unlocked meaningful lessons and insight for us. It paved the way for a future-proofing Petronas in this really increasingly complex world. And why this matter is because this journey isn't just about employment, it's about shifting mindset. It's about opportunity for us to redesign our processes. It's about for us to reimagine what inclusion truly is. And so it's about recognizing that neurodivergent individuals bring that unique strength. They bring focus, they bring innovation and problem-solving abilities that can all drive business value while also transforming life. Secondly is we understand that by fostering collaboration with external ecosystem, as Shah has mentioned, other partners, academias, NGOs, so we aim to drive a sustainable neurodiversity movement at the national level. And this helps in terms of creating that equitable and more inclusive workforce for all. And lastly, Petronas want to continue this journey. We really want to learn from other global experts and organizations, especially from the implementation perspective, to further elevate our practices because we aspire to build a truly inclusive, neuro-inclusive workplace where employees feel belong, dignity is upheld, and every individual is empowered to thrive. And to be honest, we know this isn't easy, but like any meaningful change, we know it'll take time, commitment, and the courage to challenge the status quo. So thank you so much for this opportunity. We really appreciate it. And I'll hand this back to Dr. Hasrul.
Thank you so much, our colleague from us. That is the query from just now on how Malaysian have put effort on adjusting and give the opportunity to our person with disabilities in working experience in, for example, in this job, professional job for neurodivergent population. So in my understanding, we Malaysians still don't have any guideline from that, some model for our Malaysian employment disabilities. So that's the idea that we have that we get some advantage from this seminar to looking on how the other country have been done a nice or well done job on disabilities. So that's all from my end. Give back to the channel.
All right, thank you. Well, this concludes our marathon of many presentations. And I am going to say that if we can stop sharing, we have a few people remaining on the forum, the ones who have prevailed. Before I pass the last word to Brian, who is going to give kind of a reflection on the entire forum, I want to thank Nick Fernholz from the University of Minnesota for organizing the logistics of this, for hanging on the entire day for technical assistance. And I want to thank all the presenters. And Brian, if you could just do a reflection for us for the day.
Sure, I'd love to. And you're right, it has been a long day, but it's been a day where I've learned a lot, and I hope other people have too. Since this morning, we've heard a lot of different presentations that focused on, customized employment and its use in India, transition programming and the importance of work-based learning, several approaches to kind of employment supports, customized employment approaches in the United States, and a perspective on kind of national ability employment statistics. We also heard about a number of approaches to supporting employment in the European Union, the use of technology in supporting employment, policy and legislation in Japan and how that country is going about supporting employment and preparing young adults for employment. And then a number of different things about what is going on in Malaysia both with respect to policy, employment opportunities for people with disability, and strategies for creating inclusive employment environments. Considering what was discussed, it seems like we've had some successes, but also there are still a lot of challenges, and there's much work that remains to be done, both in our country and internationally. I mean, as many people talked about, we still need to confront employer bias and discrimination and dispel a lot of misconceptions about the cost of employing people with disabilities. We still have many young people with disabilities who are coming out of school without the skills and knowledge they need to be employable. And as mentioned by several presenters, while we're doing a better job over the last decade or so, supporting individuals who have mild to moderate employment support needs, people with the most significant disabilities, as well as some people with mild disabilities on the autism spectrum are kind of the forgotten ones, even though the former group was the main reason why supported and customized employment were developed in the first place. And then I think the last thing is, although it hasn't really been discussed, it's kind of been the elephant in the room, so to speak, that, we haven't talked about, and that is in our attempt to support employment, we've forgotten about how many jobs in all of our countries, now require more than a high school education. And we have to think about kind of college and technical community college systems and TVET systems in countries and figure out how those can be opened to young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities and other disabilities in a manner which allows them to acquire certifications to get jobs that actually pay a living wage. I think what we can agree upon is that we need to see increased inclusion in employment and jobs that do provide people with disabilities a livable wage. We need to see better preparation of students through both pre-ETs, those skills that they're supposed to learn in high school about employment and oftentimes don't, and work-based learning. That we need to take a person-centered approach that's grounded in kind of the components of customized approaches to employment, and really focus on integrative employment within the context of supporting inclusion, not just in your job, but in other aspects of community life. And then finally, I think there's a need to further explore how technology can be used, not to replace people with disabilities in employment, but to support the employment of people with disabilities. So I think with all of that, I think leave here today with the idea that, all of us have done really important work, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And hopefully forums like this will engage people and get us to start thinking about, how we can take what we've learned here and in other presentations that we go to and apply it to the contexts in which we work. Renata?
Thank you, Brian. And Nick, are there any last logistical things?
I'm just going to make it really quick that our communications team is going to edit this entire day. It takes quite a bit of time to edit a 12, 14-hour day of recording, and then we will have that posted on our website. I will email all of the registered participants, and if you are a presenter and want to share your slides with us, we will have those available as well. I won't take up any more time. It is well past many of our bedtimes here in Minnesota.
Thank you very much. Stay in touch. Thank you for all of your great knowledge, and we look forward to connecting with you again on this and other topics. Have a good night, afternoon, or morning.